Line ho, uyu line lelo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru. Line ho,
line ho, uyu line lelo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru. Ukacha mama wa amatengazaje, kusesa bakomo pamaiwaje.
Ukacha mama
Early morning
amatengazaje,
kusesa bakomo pamaiwaje.
Magolo
aline
amuya mikila
akuti line lelo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru.
Magolo aline amuya mikila
akuti line lelo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru. Line ho, uyu line lelo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru.
Tinde
Line ho, uyu line lelo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru.
Agire gogo wana madingo Gamuya mikila Kudi na madingo mwana mene Mwana wanzeru. Agire gogo wana madingo Gamuya mikila
Mukuti na madingo mwana mene,
mwana wanzeru.
simuku na mago
Tawizi na
ni malota ine, bambo wanga tandisi enda
salandeka. Tawizi na
mwe ni malota ine, bambo wanga tamwali enda
salandeka. Gondo mama Gondo une mama mwe Gondo mama chalamanda
Tafera mwenda we Gondo mama Gondo une mama mwe Gondo mama chalamanda Tafera mwenda we.
Adormanic Shipping and Logistics. We export household items lóríṣiríṣi. Personal effect, clothing, food and stuffs. Láti Naija wọ̀lú America. Adormanic here Chicago Shipping and Logistics bàbá ni. Oúnjẹ láti Áfíríkà lóríṣiríṣi. Dry meat, dry fish, báwo lẹ ṣe fẹ́ sí? We export goods láti America wọ Naija. Ìròyìn ọ̀tá fojú bẹ̀yìn ta America. Ẹ̀yin ti New York, ẹ̀yin ti New Jersey. Ẹ kàn sí Journalic lórí email address. Nika Coca 27 àti Abuja.com Journalic Logistics bàbá ni.
Bó ṣe máa jẹ́ nìyẹn, ẹ̀yin ti New Jersey ẹ kàn sí wa ní Prince Street, Newark, New Jersey, USA tàbí kẹ́pẹ́ wá sórí +19 08 20 55 863 nílùú Èkó ń bí. Àdírẹ́sì wa ní Number 20 Ekoro Road, Old Ọ̀tà Road, Abúlé Ẹ̀gbá, Lagos. Ẹ pè Jùmọ̀kẹ́ sórí +234 813 099 0915 tàbí Múyìwá sórí +234 814 659 1874 at Journalic. Ọ̀gá nìkan láwùjọ òkúta.
Thank you very much for joining us again today on OY Media Scotland. My name remains Samuel Oludari Jirokon. Today, we will be dealing with a topic which is actually based on happenings in Africa. Last year, very late last year, we did run a program to ask if coups, that is coup d'etat or coup de grace, depending on which one it is, whether they're coming back into Africa. Because we've seen increasing African countries where the military are stepping in based on the voice of the people to take over government. And if you remember, far back in the early 60s to late 50s, that is how there are coups in parts of Africa and it's spread across Africa. So our question today on this program and what we will be dealing with is, has democracy failed in Africa? Please do stay on with me and I'll be right back and we'll deal with that question. So we are right back here. So the question is, has democracy failed in Africa? As you may well know, by definition of democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But over time in Africa, especially if we measure the temperature of the people regarding the performance or the performances of their political leaders, is nothing to write home about. From East Africa to Central to West, even to North Africa, the public continue to cry on what they expected to be the responsibilities or the duties of their political officers, whom they actually elected into office, but it has become a curse rather than a blessing. Take, for instance, in Cameroon, they still fighting. One part of Cameroon is calling for a referendum for them to be taken out of the larger Cameroon. What of Nigeria? We've got Biafra, we've got the Yorubas shouting for Yoruba nation, the Biafra shouting for Biafra. And all these cries are based on what is considered by those concerned as the failure of the political class. Today, we'll be led in this piece by a resource that we have got from one of our sister organizations, that is the DW. And what it came under the caption, which is an opinion, why democracy in Africa needs a rethink. In fact, it is claimed that P.L. Lumumba once said that it seems Africa needs an autocratic government, because if you are dealing with an autocratic government, somebody that is in power has totalitarian power and takes steps. If the person is doing right, the person will be celebrated. But if he's doing wrong, the people will know that it's a government that is by the few, for the few. But what we've got in Africa at the moment regarding democracy, that is meant to be the government of the people, for the people, by the people, is turning more to being an autocratic government in disguise. So let's take this. And this piece is by Abu Bakar Jallo. and I'll take it. In light of fresh wave of coups, DW's Abubakar Jallo writes that Africa needs to re-examine its relationship with democracy. And the West should re-examine its relationship with democratic turned autocratic leaders. Of course, we've always been saying this, that although the colonial masters left Africa, but they've actually not left power. Today, Africa is governed by leaders that are selected by the people. But what we've seen over the course of centuries is that the colonial masters, right at the base, they are still involved in what happens in Africa. And there is no way they will put the interests of Africa first. It has to be their own interest first. Let's keep on with this. The year 2021 went down in history as the year when military coups returned to Africa. In just a few months, the African continent witnessed dozens of coups and attempted coups in Mali, in Guinea, Sudan, and Chad. So far, 2022 has been no different. Last week, a military junta took power in Burkina Faso. For people who were around in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the heyday of coups across the continent, it feels a bit like deja vu. The reason for the coups, people's patience has worn out. The next one comes under the sub-caption, Western double standards. Many in Africa are questioning the tenets of democracy and are asking whether it's still relevant in the continent today. Across different social media platforms, I've come across many anti-democracy and anti-Western sentiments. Much of the frustration seems to be directed at democratically elected leaders who were hiding an autocratic streak, living extravagant lifestyles despite their poorer populaces. It's not uncommon for these leaders to change their constitutions for political gain and shoot at civic space to block dissenting views. This is all happening under the watchful eyes of the pioneers of democratic governance, that is Western Europe and North America. But instead of taking action, these Western nations legitimize the dirty habits of these democratic turned autocratic rulers by prioritizing their own economic interests over rights abuses and corruption. On the one hand, Europe and North America pour billions into the continent to promote good governance and support the fight against poverty and corruption. But on the other hand, they also offer financial backing to Africa's dictatorial leaders in exchange for unfettered access to natural resources. The United States, France, Germany, and Norway openly criticized the arbitrary arrest of opposition politicians in Uganda and police brutality in Cameroon, Kenya, and Nigeria. But they continue to import their raw materials from those countries. The Democratic Republic of Congo is embroiled in a protracted war in which the biggest victims are civilians. But that's no problem for the West, as long as the supply of cobalt and coltan continues to flow and power their smartphones, smart cars, and smart homes. These double standards have consequences. After 60 years of development aid, Africa remains the poorest continent in the world and still suffers the highest number of protracted civil wars. I know it's better to walk with the devil you know than the angels you don't, right? But many Africans are growing sick and tired of this line. They finally lost their patience. So they are making their voices heard with the biggest and most influential tool at their disposal, which is the internet. Politically ambitious military colonels have heard their cries and they are responding. Now, we'll be going to the next section of that piece immediately after this short break. Please do stay on with us and do remember to like our page on YouTube, join us on Facebook, and do drop your comments. I'll be right back. Right, welcome back. And we are still on that topic as democracy failed in Africa. The next line is the search for benevolent dictators. African scholars such as former International Monetary Fund executive Gambi Samoyo and the continentally renowned Kenyan political professor Patrick Lok Eteno PLO Lumumba have lauded the benefit of strongman leadership, unbounded by terms or age limits. A benevolent dictator, if you like. Against the backdrop of failed multi-party democracies across the continent, this idea has fallen on attentive ears. Some of the world's most famous strongman leaders, from Russia's Vladimir Putin to Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan, have become political rock stars among African millionaires despite their utter disregard for human rights and their routine silencing of journalists and opposition politicians. Amid this resurgence of coups, I believe that democratic government is more needed than ever in Africa, not benevolent dictators. People should be able to make fun of a president's funny art without getting thrown in jail. As someone who grew up in Sierra Leone in the 1980s, I knew all too well what will happen even if you even mention dictator Joseph Saidu Mama's name in simple conversation. From communism to monarchy, the very fabric of modern day nations hinge on the nuance of politics. With all its flaws, democracy has emerged as a strong global system. Nearly all African states have tried this form of governance after their independence from colonial Europe, but generation after generation has achieved little since then. Next caption is untie the stalemate. How do you untie the stalemate? The existing regional economic bodies have failed to deliver to or meet the interests of Africans. The African Union is not held in high regard either. In fact, many now view these institutions as support clubs for dictatorial regimes. Western nations also lost their moral high grounds when they chose to hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. But all is not lost. I believe that the coup trend can be bucked and democratic governance can return to Mali, Guinea, Chad, Sudan, and Burkina Faso. But African elites need to rethink what multi-party democracy means for them and what form it should take in order for it to prevail on the continent. Western nations must also be ready to form new partnerships with African leaders that are peaceably helping their people. They must also be prepared and willing to cut ties with leaders who fail their nations, even if that hurts their political and economic interests. Right, that piece is from DW as an opinion by Abu Bakr Jal. Now, over to you, viewers. What are your views or your opinions about democracy and its failure in Africa? Whether it could still be handled or it should be ditched for another form of governance. Would it be right for Africa to have copied democracy from Europe when traditionally and culturally the continent is entirely different from Europe? Even if Africa is going to practice democracy, should it not be a homegrown democracy which takes into cognizance the importance of tradition and cultures? Taking it right back to the Western and Europe. And as has been mentioned in the piece that has just been read, they have interest in Africa. If Africa or a particular country is unable to satisfy its people, even before the Western countries or Western nations and Europe, before they step in, there should be a power that is resident in the people to call such leaders into account. However, most of these leaders, and as we have been saying now, are actually backed up by the Western nations, especially, and this is what you find, especially the colonial master of the country, of the African country in question. Something is happening across Africa at the moment, which we believe on this platform that it is to shift power and probably to bring a balance of power to the African continent. For instance, there are reports that the junta in Mali has sacked the French crew, the French troops in their domain, and they are actually using Russian mercenaries to fight the Islamic states that are operating and created terrors in Mali. Of course, yesterday also, we are yet to confirm independently that even Burkina Faso is ditching the use of the use of French as its official language, and they are actually tending to bring in Russian administration to assist them in getting the nation back to its roots. Anti-French movement seems to be growing among the youths of the countries, of the African countries, which are colonized by France. And France is not taking that easy. France is not taking it lying down. France has pushed for some things in the past for the IMF and other Western and Europe nations to take action against any of the countries that are attempting to cut off the link that France has with those countries. In fact, in the past, we had that some African countries which attempted to cut ties with France and Belgium had all their support withdrawn, even with some of the countries having their pipe water, the water that takes pipe into individual homes, they have it blocked with cement in order to make the country ungovernable. But we can blame the West. We can blame Europe. What about our leaders? We can blame Europe for criticizing African leaders, but right at the back, helping them to stash money in Europe and in Western banks. But the question still remains, what about our own people? In most countries, every 4 years, like in Nigeria, some of the African countries are different, politicians will go to the public to promise them leadership, to promise them stewardship, to promise them responsibilities. But as soon as they get power, they become something else. The same masses, the same public that they went to meet during their campaign, then they start to hack them down. We see across Africa how some people are being killed by government forces just for demanding for their rights. The position of the right idea is that if we want to do autocracy, let's go on autocracy. If we know we are dealing with a dictator, then let's not fake it that we are running democracy. Let's put it there that yes, we've got a dictator. Anybody that wants to be a dictator and lead the country needs to step forward. Then we know that we are dealing with dictators. Then people probably will not be asking for their rights because they knew that they put in a dictator. And that would be like the biblical story of the children of Israel. When Saul was going to become the king, they were told, this person you are asking for is going to turn you into slaves. He will ride you like horses. He will take your wives. He will mistreat your daughters. And the people said, yes, that's what we want. And then God released Saul to govern that country. And he did it. And they started shouting and they started crying back to God. And God said, but I told you. So in Africa, if that is what we want, then let's choose it. But then if we want democracy, we need to have strong leadership. We need to be able to put the best of us right out there to represent us. Today in Western countries, as imperfect as the democracy, even in the Western countries are, the politicians are still answerable. There are some things that are done that you cannot aspire to represent the people. There are some crimes that you do or that you commit, and you will never, ever aspire to come out to tell the people that you want to be their representatives. But that's not what we have in Africa. We have convicts. We have people who are even in the process of the court that have allegations. People that are on the court legal process for murder and manslaughter. Yet they will put in to represent the people. We've had leaders who have been caught stealing public funds, but they will still come out to say they are the best persons for the people to repose their trust on. And unfortunately, maybe because of poverty, the people also will roll out a mass to support them, to put them in the public position. However, there's a catch. And when we come back from this short ad break, we'll be talking about that. Why would people know that a candidate has not done well, has stolen before, or been involved in murder, but then they will still come out to vote for that person? So do stay on with me and I'll be right back. Right, welcome back. You are still on OY Media Scotland. The topic we're still dealing with is as democracy failed in Africa. And before that short break, I did mention that why would people, knowing that a particular person is corrupt and has not delivered in a previous post on a previous duty, but they will still go out to vote for the person. Almost across Africa, and these are the opinions of some people, that most, if not all, African countries are multi-ethnic. When Europe divided Africa between themselves, they put people with different culture, different tradition, different language, different values, they put them together. For one reason or the other, they tend to give power to one part of that group. And unfortunately, it's a group that is less progressive. So in almost all African countries, there is always a fight for balance of power. Let's take Nigeria for an instance. We have the North, we have the East, and we have the West. And that's us talking about the three main ones. But of course, Nigeria is divided into 6 geopolitical zones. But let's take those 3 core groups. The North, represented by the Hausas and the Fulani. And then we have the East, but the Igbo, and of course, in the West, you have the Yoruba. It is believed that the colonial master, Britain, sort of, or in what you can consider as a deceit, favored the North to hold on to power. So during the census, before they handed over Nigeria to the Nigerian people, the census was doctored to favor the North over the rest of the country. And the implication of that is that in any democratic representation, you will always have more reps from the North than those people that you have from even the combination of the East and the West. So it becomes difficult for the others to get into a position without the support of the North. And as we have seen over time, anyone or any person or any individual that has climbed that level of leadership from either the East or the West has always been with the support of the North. And this is what is now bringing right down to the question, to the issue that is happening in Nigeria at the moment, where people from the East are asking for Biafra, people from the West, the Yoruba, are asking for Yoruba nation. We've had reports from the East where there have been killings. We have in the West, but that doesn't mean that even the North itself is safe. The North itself is also experiencing serious insurgency, with many people being killed. One would think reasonably that even if the North has the power, is something that the North should have negotiated to look for the competent leader that could assist not just the East or the West, but also the North. But when it comes to power, that is not done. Like I earlier mentioned, it's not just happening in Nigeria. We've seen what happened in Congo in the past. We've seen what happened in Rwanda. We've seen what is happening currently in Cameroon. And we can even look at what happened in Libya. That is North Africa. So it's for the purpose of getting our people there that made masses to continue to vote. Well, we know most of those votes are rigged, but we still have masses voting for these people that have not delivered in the previous duty. Although they are corrupt, but their own people will think that, well, our people should be there. Although they have cases that should automatically disqualify them from public office. But still yet, you still have people running after them. Let me take another example from Nigeria. And you permit me for this because I'm a Nigerian, so there's a possibility I will know more about what is happening in Nigeria than other parts of Africa. But that doesn't mean it's only happening in Nigeria. There's something we call palliative. And those were some basic needs that were distributed by the government then. Just almost right at the start of the COVID issue. And this is to reduce the pain and the difficulty that the people will go through because of the restriction when people couldn't go out to work. In some of the Western countries, we had government giving people money in order to survive during that period. Apart from the government, we have community organizations, we have churches, we have mosques distributing relief materials. But that wasn't really happening in Africa. People were not being given money. But then the government got some palliative, and most of these palliative, the fund came from the Western countries. And we've seen videos of some of these political leaders hiding those palliatives in warehouses instead of distributing it to the people. Now, you and I reasonably would think that any politicians that has been caught doing that should never ever aspire to represent the people in any public office. But guess what? The same people who complain about them are the same one running after them now, since election is coming. There was a report of one who even used the palliative store package for a birthday, for our own birthday. Now, that can happen. Like I said, the democracy here is not perfect, but that can happen in this country and in Scotland, in UK. It can happen. But back home, it happens. And when it happens, you will think that should be the end of the political career of that individual. But guess what? You'll be surprised that they even have the most votes. So, apart from the people, that is the masses now, the voters, wanting their own persons to be in government, since there is an issue with balance of power in the country, you also find out that the politicians have developed a strategy where they believe that when they make the people so poor, they will easily get votes for them. And that is what you see, that once campaign starts, these politicians, we're already seeing it because we've got 2 elections coming on in southwest of Nigeria this year. That is Ekiti and Osun State. But not just only that, even for the presidency that will be coming next year, we've seen people packaging bread, packaging beans, packaging rice as their campaign strategy. Of course, we saw something similar in the United States. Was it last year or about 2 years ago? But the one in Africa is a large scale because the people are poor. So those things are given to the people and they use that to secure their votes. And the people know very well that once you vote, once you get that 500 or probably maybe is 5 kg of rice, that's just what you're expecting from that politician for the 4 years that the politician will serve in public office. So we've spoken about balance of power. People want their own people there, even if that person is corrupt. Secondly, the politicians have made the people so poor to the extent that during campaign, the people just want to get the little bit they can get from them, and then that's it. And thirdly, we've spoken about the masses' docility. Many people, when you talk to them about politics and holding their representative accountable, you see people waving it off to say it's their government. It's their government. They can do whatever they like. So to an extent, it seems that people themselves has given up on democracy as is their government. Obviously, which will not be the definition of democracy, because democracy is meant to be the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. So the people are docile. I mean, it's got to the point where majority, I mean, a good number of the people are not interested in voting. Some that will vote for whoever gives them the little bit they can get. They believe that that is their own national cake, and that's the only time they can get it. So once they get it, they don't bother to hold the politicians accountable. So you have all these things in place. But for democracy to work, is it possible that the people themselves will not be involved? Will democracy work? If we just vote people into place and then that's it. If we look carefully at what is happening in Africa and of course in Europe, we see that the people in Europe are constantly taking up their elected representatives. One case that is ongoing at the moment is the Prime Minister of UK, that is Boris Johnson, attending a party. Whether it was organized by him or not, but he attended a party when there was COVID restriction. Up to now, there's an investigation going on it. And for those that have been following Prime Ministers question time on BBC, etc., you will have asked the elected representatives of the people, asking him when he's going to step down, because they felt he has failed the trust that the public had in him. The government brought out the law that because of the COVID, in order to stem the infection rates, there's a number of people that can meet at that particular time. But then the Prime Minister himself broke the rule, and there's an investigation going on, and people are calling for his head. But will you do that in Africa? I can tell you straight away what an African will say. If you tell somebody, for instance, that, oh, the president had a wedding when there was restriction and he was not meant to do that, I can guarantee you somebody will tell you, will that put bread on my table? And that talks about docility. It seems a whole lot of whether it's, and I don't think it's just the new generation, even with the whole generation, people can't seem to connect holding politicians or their political representatives into question, holding them accountable. They can't link that to the benefit of democracy reaching them. So they would rather leave the politician to do whatever they want, and when it's 4 years, another campaign is coming for another election, they wait for them. And the waiting is not to take those politicians off on where they have failed in representing the people. No. The waiting they are waiting for the politician is to have their own part. So a politician is allowed to steal billions and give people 1,000 or 5,000, and the people felt, yes, we've got ours. So for democracy to work in Africa, what should we do? And what I'll be saying is going to actually be the opinion of this platform. I'll be right back. Please do stay on with us.
ìròyìn tá fojú bẹ̀yìn ta Amẹ́ríkà. ẹ̀yin ti New York, ẹ̀yin ti New Jersey. ẹ kàn sí Journalic lórí email address nikakoka27 àti yahoo.com. Journalic Logistics bàbá ní.
bó ṣe máa jẹ́ nìyẹn ẹ̀yin ti New Jersey ẹ kàn sí wa ní Prince Street, Newark, New Jersey, USA, tàbí kẹ́ pè wá sórí +19 0820 55863 nílùú Èkó ń bí. àdírẹ́sì wa ní nọ́mbà 20 Ẹ̀kọ̀rọ̀ Road, Old Ọ̀tà Road, Abúlé Ẹ̀gbá, Lagos. ẹ pè Jùmọ̀kẹ́ sórí +234 813 099 0915 tàbí Múyìwá sórí +234 814 659 1874 at Journalic. ọ̀gá nìkan láwùjọ òkúta.
Right, welcome back. You are still on with us on Worldwide Media Scotland. And what we're dealing with, has democracy failed in Africa? Remember, we are on YouTube. Just search for Worldwide Media Scotland. Give us a like there and subscribe. And of course, we are on Facebook. We are on Instagram as well. Remember, on Saturdays, we have our program at 3, and on Sundays, we have it at 6 p.m. All in UK time zone. Now, before that shorter break, there was a question I posed. What should Africa do for democracy to work? And like I said, this will be the views or the opinion of this platform. Number one, the people must work with the spirit of the definition of democracy. Democracy is the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And what that means is that the government of the people, the power for whichever government that is going to be in place has to be the power of the people. I have to apologize once again because I'm going to use Nigeria as an example. The 1999 Constitution, which Nigeria has been using since 1999, was not the power of the people. Like many people will say, the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria is a fraud. People that were involved, that were supposed to know, we did have the video, and that's, I think it's been posted earlier on our page, of the Minister of Information for that time claiming that he did not see the Constitution at all. Even as at the time, the president, the person who became president after the Constitution was done, that is Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, an ex-military person, that he did not even see the Constitution. As at the time he was being sworn in, they just used something and not actually the Constitution. Now, this could be something that is happening in other parts of Africa. So if we have a constitution that is not made by the people, that the power is not from the people, then that is not democracy. And I think that's the reason many people in Nigeria are calling for a review of that constitution. Some people have said, no, you can't call for a review of a fraud. Because if you are going to do the review of the constitution, you will only add and remove. So how would you add and remove from something that in its entirety is actually a fraud? So that's the first thing. The power has to come from the people. And that could be quite very tough to do. And that leads to the second view or the opinion that the people of Africa, within each country, they have to become sacrificial. We have a saying, no pain, no gain. I think the people of Africa seems to, maybe I would not want to generalize because it might not be everyone, but majority of the people seems to think that they can get something without passing through pain. If we believe that there's no pain, no gain, the people should stand as one to insist that power must return to the people. There are many times that the country has been grounded for one thing or the other. So actually the country can be grounded. And really not about people going out there to protest in a way that they can use security forces to kill maim, torture, and harass them. But there's something that is called civil disobedience. With civil disobedience, well, there'll be a bit of pain when people may not be able to earn some money for some time, but no pain, no gain. The government of the people, for the people. That takes us to the third views or opinion from this platform. Any government that is not for the people is not democracy, and the people should stand against it. It should be impossible. I'll repeat that. It should be impossible for a people's representative to live in an area and he's got his house and there's light there, and the other people around those areas, they don't have light. It should be impossible. It should be impossible for a people's representative to have police escorts, soldiers, securing his property while the other people has no one to protect them. It should be impossible. It should be impossible for a people's representative, the person that claims is representing his own people, to be the only better person within that area where he claimed to be representing people. It should be impossible. Now, we know there are people who have labored, they've worked before they join politics. They have a right to enjoy their life. I mean, if they put in so much work, we would definitely not consider them to live on the same level with maybe others that have not had the opportunity they had, or that have not worked as hard as they have. But what we've seen in the political sphere these days is someone getting into politics and suddenly becoming a multi-billionaire. The life of a public officer should reflect the average life of people living in the area he or she claims to be representing. That is about the government being for the people. What we have at the moment, the government is not for the people. And that is the reason you have the politicians living extravagant lifestyles, while the people they claim to be representing within their own same area are living in abject poverty. Now, the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And that brings us to the last point on this. When you talk about by the people, and within the context and the spirit of the definition of democracy, those people should be people that you can identify with. Those people that you can call into account. And of course, in some of the constitution, you have it that you can withdraw your representatives and call and stuff like that. But if the people hasn't got the power in the first place, such clause in the constitution is just to fill space. So people should be able to elect persons within their community that they can hold to account. I used to tell people when we have time to talk about democracy in Africa and so that, I mean, if I am a public officer and I've got the power, I will withdraw all police officers and, in fact, all military personnel will return to the barracks. We don't want to see any one of them outside. The police, because even the ratio of the police officers to the populace is very low. Nigeria is yet to meet the international standards. So why should somebody be carrying a police officer about? The police officers are meant to return back to their barracks and to return back to their posts. Anybody, anyone that wants a security agent, individual security agent, then we'll expand that sector for them to go and spend their money to get private security and not use our police and the military to harass people. And like you said, and many people have mentioned it, that our politicians are supposed to just be paid like a civil servant. And they should be given sitting allowance. So things have to change. If democracy is the government of the people, where is the people that give the government the power, not this one that is hijacked. In fact, I've said at a time that any candidate whatsoever who happens during his or her campaign, I mean, if there is any report of people killing each other during the campaign, the person should be disqualified immediately. I mean, those are the things you call people's constitution, not the one that is just done at the back door, and somebody just put it and just write, "We the people of Nigeria have done this." No. You run a campaign, there is violence, and it shows the type of leadership you are bringing in. They will be suspended. You have a record. I mean, in fact, if you are undergoing a court process on a crime, you can't represent the people. Your record will stand against you. And that is when people will begin to understand that with every action, there will be consequence or string of consequences. So the government of the people, for the people, if it doesn't work for the people, I will make an example here. You don't see people here running after a councillor or hailing a councillor. No. Even the head of the council, even the prime minister, you don't see people running and because they are public servants. The councillors and the MPs, member of parliament, the MSP, for instance, in Scotland we have MSPs, member of Scottish Parliament, then we have MPs that are sent to the central government in England. Both of them, there are times they need to meet the community. They have to go and sit down somewhere, and the people will go there to see them, to go and tell them what they want them to do. They will go there to complain. They will go there to ask them questions. If they've not been doing their job, they will go there to tell them. They don't have police. They come on their own. They live among the people. They don't live in walled fence, with barricade, with soldiers, security. No. But that's what's happening in Africa. If your representative knows that security is important and he will not be allowed to have police and this thing with him and all this, then he will do more when it gets to the place to legislate to ensure that security is boosted in your area. But if they have access to resources that should be available to the people, then they can go there. And, I mean, we've seen them some couple of times. They stay there and they laugh. Some will carry newspapers and just sit there and be reading newspapers, when they actually meant to be representing the people. So, is this the last coup that we were hearing in Africa? I don't think so. In 2015, late 2015, late 2014, and early 2015, I was having a chat with a friend, and I told him, I said, we should not knock out the possibility of a coup in Nigeria. And my friend said, no, that coup is no longer fashionable in the entire continent of Africa and co. I said, no, the coup is still an option. Insofar that our political leaders are becoming irresponsible day by day. When you look at the trends, it seems that the successive African governments, they seem to be contesting about which regime is going to be the most irresponsible. And you find out that regime after regimes, they become more and more irresponsible. Poverty indexes continue to rise. Infrastructural decay continues to rise. So that means we are actually not putting those people that will deal with the issue, we are not putting them in place. We are just putting people, yes, because it belongs to my tribe, and we have to be the one in power, or we have to be the one to hijack power. We are not looking for competent hands. And it will go on and on. So the question is, if coup happens in Mali, if coup happens in Burkina Faso, Sudan, so why do you think a place like Nigeria is protected? Why do you think that a place like Cameroon, there can be a coup tomorrow? Apart from, I mean, we have Rwanda now, Kagame, I think, and some couple of African countries that they say they're trying to readjust things. But majority of African countries, it's not working. And if it doesn't work and the people continue to shout, yes, coup is an option. Because the soldiers too, they are members of the public. Although they could be worse, we are not saying that the soldiers are going to be better, but the thing is, if the one that is meant to be the power of the people, to get the benefit for the people, and is done by the people themselves, if it's not working, then there will be coups, and there will be instabilities, and it could be very dangerous. So, what are your views? Please drop us a comment, either right down here in this place, or you can drop it for us on YouTube or send it to us on Facebook. I'll be right back tomorrow. Tomorrow is at 6 p.m. And then we'll unfold what we have for us. Until then, do stay safe. And if you are involved in leadership in Africa, this is about us. We can blame the West till tomorrow. The time when we have to do things for the West, whether we like it or not, that has gone. That is when they were on ground and they had horse. But now, is giving you money for you to release the destiny of your people. You are a bad leader if you are involved in that. It has to be very clear to us. And Africa, Africa is very religious. So, I told people, as a minister, you are a politician, you are involved in fraud, how would a church give you a platform? Even if you are the president, if you come and you are involved in this thing, you will not be given a platform. But because we have other leaders as well that want to show their popularity by having these politicians, even the ones that have been accused of killing people, you give them your platform. It's wrong. Anyway, I'll see you again tomorrow. Please do connect with us. We've got the link for both YouTube and Facebook Live. Connect with us. And let's discuss about it. This is about us anyway. And we have to sort out things that belongs to us. Nobody's going to do it for us. Britain can cry till tomorrow. We know Britain is part of our problem. In Nigeria, in some other countries as well, African countries, we know France is a problem. In some countries, including Mali, and in Mali, Congo, around that place. Of course, Germany cannot say that they are not complicit in some things that are happening. The piece that we read mentioned about how they kept on to take raw materials from Congo, and those are the raw materials they use for the mobile phones and the laptop and even the aeroplane. And still yet, these people cannot call those countries to order, but they can claim to be, criticizing them for human rights abuses, to be doing that, but underneath, they're doing dealings with them. So, but we should not concentrate on the West. We should have leaders that the people are willing and ready to support. And those are the leaders that actually have the heart of the people. Or like somebody will say, the heart of his servants. Until tomorrow at 6 p.m., I remain yours, Samuel Oludare Jerogun. Do stay safe and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Agire gogo wana madingo Namu ya mikira Kudi na madingo mwana mene Mwana wanzeri Agire gogo wana madingo Namu ya mikira Kudi na madingo mwana mene Mwana wanzeri
Simuku na mako
Kawizi na
ni malota ine Bambo wala dandisi
Ndasalandeka Tavizina
mwe ni malota ine bambo wanga atamwalira
ndakalandika. Gondo mama
Gonda
Gondo mune